On the morning of May 9th, 1980, drivers crossing the Sunshine Skyway Bridge in Florida were swallowed by a thick, blinding fog. Visibility was near zero. They slowed down, cautiously feeling their way across the steel roadway suspended over Tampa Bay. What they couldn't see was that just minutes earlier, a 600-foot freighter had torn a 1,200-foot hole in the bridge. And they weren't driving towards the other side. They were driving towards a gaping void 150 feet above the water. Get all emergency equipment out to the Skyway Bridge. Vessel has just hit the Skyway Bridge. The Skyway Bridge is down. This is Mayday. Stop the traffic on that Skyway Bridge. But up on the bridge, in the fog, no one could hear him. The man behind that call was John Lerro, an experienced harbor pilot tasked with guiding the massive freighter, the MV Summit Venture, out to sea. The weather that morning was bad, but not yet severe. Other ships in the area reported manageable conditions, so Lerro proceeded. But as the ship approached the main channel of the bridge, the weather turned violently. A sudden, unforecasted squall descended, bringing torrential rain and winds that blindsided the ship. The rain was so heavy it rendered the ship's radar useless. Lerro was flying blind. He ordered lookouts to the bow and told his crew to be ready to drop anchor. But the Summit Venture was already off course, drifting out of the shipping channel and towards one of the bridge's main concrete support piers. By the time the structure loomed out of the fog like a ghost, it was too late. At 7:33 a.m., the ship's bow struck the pier. The concrete shattered, and a section of the bridge 4 football fields long peeled away from the sky and crashed into the bay below. On the bridge, one driver, a man named Richard Hornbuckle, saw the impossible happen. The red warning lights on top of the bridge superstructure ahead of him simply dropped. He slammed on his brakes, stopping just feet from the edge. As he threw his car into reverse, he saw other headlights coming towards him through the fog. He waved his arms and screamed at them to stop. But it was no use. One after another, 6 cars, a truck, and a Greyhound bus full of passengers emerged from the fog, hit the break in the road, and vanished into the abyss. They plunged 150 feet, hitting the water with the force of an impact on solid concrete. 35 people went into the water. Only one came out. His name was Wesley McIntyre. His pickup truck was the last vehicle to go over the edge. It struck the deck of the Summit Venture before tumbling into the bay. The impact shattered his windshield, and somehow he was thrown clear. He swam to the surface and was pulled aboard by the ship's horrified crew. The investigation that followed placed heavy scrutiny on John Lerro. But while the Coast Guard criticized his decision to proceed in bad weather, they ultimately cleared him of negligence. The squall was a freak event, and he had done what he could with the information he had. Lerro returned to work, but the weight of the disaster never left him. He was later diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and had to give up his career as a pilot. He spent the rest of his life using his experience as a lesson. He taught maritime cadets, telling them, if you misjudge, you've got hell to pay. He even became a counselor for convicts and victims of crime, trying to turn his own tragedy into a source of healing for others. The disaster exposed a fatal flaw in the bridge's design. Its support piers had no impact protection. When the new Sunshine Skyway Bridge opened in 1987, it was built differently. Massive concrete islands called dolphins were constructed to surround the main piers, a physical barrier designed to stop a ship before it can ever touch the bridge itself. Today, a memorial stands in a rest area overlooking the bay, honoring the 35 people who lost their lives that foggy morning. It's a reminder that the new bridge is a landmark built twice, first with steel and then with a lesson paid in tragedy.